Okay, I think we should start now. Well, hi everyone, nice to meet you. Thank you for being there. Just a quick introduction. My name is Vincent Berthier. I'm, well, obviously French, and I'm in charge of the technological desk for Press Freedom NGO Reporters Without Borders. And today we are talking about an AI tool project that we've named the Spinoza project, which is soon-to-be open-source AI tool for journalists, made with journalists for their specific needs. And what I'm telling you today is some lessons that we have learned from this experiment, because it is an experiment, but it's still a work in progress, so I don't have all the conclusions of this experiment. So first analysis of why we wanted to do this project. I started to work at Reporters Without Borders in 2022. My job was to make some prospective research, especially on what challenges the journalism should face on the coming years. I worked on AI very quick because it was not only about the future, it was about right now. At that time, we did not speak about ChatGPT yet. But anyway, we started to do some works and relevant search about AI ethics that led us to publish last year an international ethical charter on AI and journalism, named the Paris Charter. And then we started to do a more efficient and concrete project named the Spinoza project, which is to build a tool with this interrogation is Gen AI that useful for journalists? Is there a risk of using it? Is it possible to design an ethical tool for journalism with Gen AI? Because, of course, everyone was talking at that time about deepfakes, about jobs loss, and we wanted to be sure that this kind of technology was safe, if it wasn't safe, or we could make it safer, or maybe we should just dismiss it. So what we wanted to do at the beginning was kind of clear. We wanted to build an open source technical framework, meaning like a kind of software, about the ethical standards of journalism. It was not just about using a chatbot for common users with no transparency and no guarantee that the information is well managed by the system. We wanted to build something for what we've called augmented journalism. We did not invite in the term, of course, because our goal was explicitly not to replace journalists. Because at that time, we already knew that ChatGPT was unable to create a trustworthy and quality piece of report. And of course, as press freedom advocates, what we wanted to do was to build something able to put the emphasis on the value of the journalistic work at the edge of AI. And I must say that for this specific point, we have met a lot of great expectations, and we are quite happy with it. And of course, the last point was to initiate a community to convince journalists and media to work together to build their own tools using open source algorithm in order to avoid what had happened with, for example, social networks, meaning that today journalists are not in control anymore of all the information is spread on the public space, and we wanted to avoid that the same thing occur with their tool to build content. So we made the first strategical partnership with the Alliance of General Information, which is in France. It's a very French project. The Union of the Editors of Press. So you have famous articles and also a lot of local news. We gathered 20 French media entities. When I say entities, because you have both a single media, such as Libération, national newspaper, but you also have media groups, such as very popular local news group. And each of them put on the table, for the beginning, 1K articles that they allowed us to treat and to integrate on our system. And then we started with 4 workshops of following design thinking methodology in order to build a first prototype. And then this is what we achieved in a few months. So this is the actual face of the Spinoza prototype. Unfortunately, I wanted to share with you a video, but last week we were doing great upgrades and the tool was unavailable, so I was not able to make a video. But if you want to see a demonstration, the work should be ended by now, so come to see us at the Village Media and I will show you what Spinoza looks like. So this is an AI tool, an assistant AI tool, as we called it, made of several databases. I have to add a precision, I forgot. This tool is not only about climate change. We decided to focus on a very specific and urgent matter in order to be sure to test on a topic very useful for journalism and media industry. We have a first database named Science, composed of IPCC reports and IPBES reports. Then law agent composed of French texts of laws about climate change and ecology. Then several politics and ADEM in public science in France sources. And then we have the big databases of press articles named Press Agent and a small data set that press agency AFP kindly gave us to make the experimentation. What you can see is that the Spinoza window is the main window of the tool. It allows the user to have access to a synthesis of research when asked a specific question on climate change. Every information is quoted and with a link which redirects to the original sources that you can see on the right column. You can also have access to every specific information on every databases, which allow you as a journalist to make deep dive research on specific sources and maybe to focus on just one part of your work. I have to add that for now, the prototype is using GPT 3.5, but we are about to experiment with open source algorithm, more specifically Llama 3 and Mistral 7B. So I don't want to be too technical, but here's what we've learned. So of course, involving journalists is crucial, and when I say involving journalists, I don't mean just about making design thinking workshop, because this is obvious as they are the end users of the solution, but it's also involving them in every technical decision that you have to take. Why? Because first, it's a way to empower them and be sure that they will be more informed about what AI is, because at the beginning, basically, for most of journalists we worked with, AI was a magic wand. And now they are most able to manage and to understand what AI, and specifically generative AI, is able to do. So involve the journalist, and not only don't consider them as customers, but really consider them as experts. Of course, data quantity and quality is really, really important. And I insist on that point because we use some technique to limit the ability of the algorithm to produce information of its own. So you need to compensate that to have a lot of very qualitative databases. And for that, you'll need to involve journalists once. Because what we've learned, we've discovered, I must say, is that journalists are really good to make strong and efficient databases. Like, at the beginning, we were like, okay, we are doing some design thinking, and then now, well, in the tool you've seen, this one, most of the, well, except for Press and AFP Agent, of course, but most of the databases have been upgraded with suggestions from journalism and sometimes from works. Basically, we make them, we share with them a document and say, okay, what source is missing in these databases? And then we have plenty of new propositions. And this is my future point. We can we proved actually that you can make an ethical design of an AI tool. And when I'm talking about ethical design, I'm not just talking about quoting sources, because obviously this is the base of ethical design in journalism. You can click and have access to every piece of sources, but also you can reach where the synthesis comes from, and then you are able to see how your initial question has been reworded by the algorithm. So for each step of the process, we wanted to be sure that the journalist and the user was able to be in control and to have relevant information on what is happening on the system. So if something goes wrong, he will be able to see it really quick. So this is the most tough part and the most interesting one. And the first is about the prompt. I'm not sure that everyone knows what is a prompt, but let's say that it's a basic instruction of an algorithm of Gen AI. So the first step was to make a kind of pre-customized prompt by our developer team. And we realized that it didn't work very well. Because, of course, our prompt said to the machine, well, if you don't have enough information, say that you don't have any information at all. And the problem is that the algorithm was being too cautious. And so it never answered anything. I'm exaggerating a little. And so we designed a new prompt with journalism. I'm not able to show it to you because there is a new prompt coming. But basically, we came from a 10-line prompt to a 3-pages prompt. And that was an awesome experiment. Because we just gathered journalists, and together, as journalists, they put into words how they were working. And basically, we are learning to the machine to help a journalist by being the closest possible as his workflow. About data integrity, I have already made a few words about that. But the work they've done in being very precise in new data sources was amazing. As I said, we worked with a lot of local newspapers. And so we work with a lot of journalists working on climate change and on a very specific region of France. And they were quite the only one able to identify sources from local NGOs, for example, or local scientists to add to the databases. So their experience and their knowledge was highly valuable. And then for each of these databases, we wanted to be sure that the instructions were following the logic of these databases because, as you know, when you're working on a piece of report, most of the time you work from the most general to the most specific. And so we rebuild the databases in order to be sure that it will be really helpful to mimic the structure of an article in order to help the journalist to pick quickly information for his piece of report. And as I said about transparency, we managed to provide every needed tool to make sure that the tool was transparent as much as possible. Because transparency is trust, especially in journalism. You know that. And we wanted to give, for example, original question, or the intermediary synthesis, because the main synthesis is a synthesis of syntheses. So, of course, we need to be able to draw that back. So I know everyone is admiring what we've done so far, but is the Spinoza project tool just perfect? And of course not, because as I said, it's a work in progress, and our goal is not to create the perfect tool possible. We never thought that we were able to challenge OpenAI, for example, on creating a new journalistic ChatGPT. This is nonsense. But what we are building is a framework for how to build a journalistic tool with journalists for journalism. And of course, we have to consider that big language models are very problematic in their very nature. Because they are probabilistic, they don't know what an information is or what an information is not, because they don't know things. They are softwares, they are not journalists. So, for example, I will show you a very small problem actually, that you can't now, but it's in English, and it's supposed to answer in French. But after a few questions, sometimes not, the model will change of languages, probably because his input was an English written text. So there is kind of instability which is inherent to this kind of technology. And there is a very few we can do about it. So I was quite happy with this bug because I was able to show you something about the project not in French. But the fact is that this is an issue because a lot of French journalists don't speak English. And actually, even when I'm using ChatGPT, sometimes it will answer to me in English for no reason. And of course, as I told you, I'm still not sure. I'm using ChatGPT almost every day, and I know that I have a lot of use to it, but I'm still not sure that Gen AI is more useful to journalists than journalists are to Gen AI. Because this is the only profession working on an industry at scale capable of producing high quality data and content. And we know that AI providers need that data. So this is a question we are trying to find an answer to on the next coming months. We don't know yet what will be the future of the Spinoza project because, as I told, it's an experiment. I told you that we wanted to open source it, so every media and journalist could handle the tool and maybe adapt it to its needs. And if you have any question, because there is only 30 seconds, so feel free to reach me on LinkedIn, by mail, or as I told you sooner, at the Media Village. Thank you very much for your attention. Five minutes for questions. Yes?
Is the Spinoza project available on as more language or just French and English?
Well, the results are obviously better with English prompting. When I talked about open source algorithm we are going to integrate, we will use two. One made by Meta for English documents and one made by a French company for French documents. But obviously right now when you are using ChatGPT and you can do the experiment of your own with a very free account, you can you will have way more better results with ChatGPT in English than in any other languages.
Hi, thank you so much for the presentation. Basically, you said that there's an array of databases that's been used to make this tool happen and to centralize and collectivize, essentially. I was wondering, what challenges did you find in standardizing what I guess was the differently formatted data in all those databases and to make it easier for the user to make use of the prompts available?
Well, about the data, what we've done so far is quite simple. We manage one format, it's PDF reports. It was the most convenient, and because it's really easy to parse and to integrate on the AI system. Something we are trying to do, but we are not really confident on the success of it, is to integrate pictures and to use the abilities to AI to read pictures and describe it in order to extract data. I'm not really confident on the success of such an experiment because it's kind of randomless. But why not? We will try. It's an experiment after all. And for now, we are able to read text and charts and sheets. And so about standardization, there is not an explicit standardization because the sociology of journalism is basically standardizing it by itself.
Thanks very much for the presentation. I'm based in South Africa. I was wondering if you were taking pitches for small newsrooms to join you guys or to contribute or to be part of this. Is that the next phase?
Well, the next phase, as I told, well, today we are running in closed beta with French media, and of course, after that, we will open source what we can. So basically everything except the databases of press articles. For obvious rights reasons, you all know the issues about the copyright. And so, yes, everyone, it's hosted on the platform Hugging Face, which is an open source friendly platform ecosystem. And everyone will be able to copy the code and duplicate it and adapt it to its needs. So, of course, this is with French media, but if you change databases, then you just have to change slightly the prompt and it will work. And of course, we will publish the documentation in order to help even the journalists and the media with the less computing skills to do it efficiently.
I'm sorry I didn't have the time to hear more about your project. I really am so interested to find out more. So my question is that, are there things that you expected to work but didn't? So this made you think that maybe if you could do them in another way, you could have better results?
Yeah, there is something I wanted to do at the beginning, which is not possible at this technical level. It's to make a fact-checking flow. For example, with just a random text or a speech-to-text algorithm, just the machine to be able to pick an information from the databases and to consider it in the perspective on another information on another databases. I was really optimistic because obviously, as I told, this is not AI is not really intelligent, right, and not able to thinking. So we reconsider our ambitions and made this thing, and I think actually this is more useful. I have 15 seconds left if you have a very small question about 2 words. Thank you very much.